everyone, welcome back to another episode of Secrets of a Bridal Seamstress, and I am here with the fabulous Sarah Kolis. You already know her. If you're a listener, then you already know her, you already love her, you're already inspired by all the things and the recent bedsheet dress that everyone's talking about. Okay, really quick, let's just talk about which came first, like the dress idea or the bedsheet? Like, what did you come up with first?
You know what? I kind of hate that this is like my most well-known dress here too, because it was the cheapest fabric ever and it was the quickest dress to make. And I'm like, I have such cooler pieces that have never gotten this much attention. But actually it was the dress first and then the bed sheets, because I was looking for this very specific, like a toile or some other fabric that would match the mood board that was created by the photographer that organized the style shoot. And I could not find a good blue toile that I could get enough yardage of that I liked. And then I was kind of giving up on it, and I was almost going to do a white dress. And then I opened my linen closet one day, and the rest is history. So I saw
you already had the sheets?
I did, but I didn't want to tear those up. So I did go buy new ones because I just like them so much. I'm not going to get rid of them.
That is so funny. Wow. Inspiration can come anywhere.
Anywhere.
Even your linen closet.
And it was great because it was so much cheaper than what I would have normally done. And it was actually a really awesome fabric to work with because we got the king size. So it was just this huge piece of fabric. I didn't have to put all these seams in the skirt that I normally would. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Highly recommend.
Yeah. Well, we love our Threshold sheets. So I don't know if that's the brand, but that's our favorite.
Yes, it was. It's great.
Oh, that is so funny. Okay. Well, how about we rewind a little bit and tell us a little bit about Sarah Kolis Designs, how that started. I feel like you've been sewing forever.
This is true. I grew up sewing all through childhood. I was just sewing all the time. And then when I was 18, I got my LLC and
whoa. Okay. Yeah. I did not know that when you were 18.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So I think that may break a record because Rose Fine Alterations, Audrey Clark was on here and she was 19 years old when she started her business. So you broke the record, at least on this podcast, the record.
Yeah. Well, anyway, growing up sewing, which I don't know if you did, Nadine. Did you sew growing up or did you learn this? Yeah. So you get various people that want to fix things, right? And that was very normal in my childhood. People would give me stuff all the time. I hated doing it, but we would, I would fix, hem pants, fix holes, things like that. And then when I got into later high school, there were other people that were like, well, I'll pay you to do this. And I'm like, whoa, back up. You'll pay me to do this. And so I'm like, okay. So it was a big mind shift that I'm like, maybe I could do this for work.
Incentive. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I
will say nobody asked me to fix anything when I was sewing in middle school. I have a memory of my sister wanted a rehearsal dress made for her wedding when I was in high school, and it did not go well. So I was not no. When I was in high school, nobody was paying me to do anything. So congratulations on that.
It was very minimal, and it was the most random projects here and there. And I mean, at the beginning, I'm sure a lot of seamstresses, you just take everything, everything someone brings to you, you take the job, no matter what it is. So I did, and then I didn't start specializing in bridal I kind of got into bridal right away, but I more so actually stuck with bridal very specifically during COVID, because that was the only thing anyone wanted altered if they wanted anything altered. So, but I mean, I was very heavy bridal before that too, but now I'm very strict about it. But yeah, that's how we started.
Wow. And it's fun. It's funny. The more that I hear business stories, it's really fascinating how many businesses blossomed during COVID. Which is so, especially in the wedding industry, what? And if you think of wedding planners and wedding photographers, especially bridal seamstresses, it's okay, 2020 is when it really took off. And it just is so counterintuitive of how that works.
It's so weird. And I think myself included, I think people gravitated towards their passions more. So maybe, sewing is just a fun thing. Being an entrepreneur is just a fun thing. I don't know if you know this, Nadine, but I was an automotive engineer for 6.5 years post-college.
I think I remember this at the retreat.
Yes, we probably talked about it.
Kind of the jaw-dropping. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Little nugget that
I
you
left
shared.
that job during COVID. So myself included, I was juggling both things for a while. And then I was like, you know what? I need to go all in. I love this. I'm not enjoying my other job. So I left that, but went
That is
all in.
crazy. So then what did that job look like? Like, what was your day to day?
Oh my gosh, you would love this.
Just so we can have this visual
Yeah.
of you.
Oh, these seamstresses would love to hear this. It's always so, like when I was at the retreat with you, I was like, this is so refreshing to talk about things and I don't have to explain it.
Right,
Like
right,
I
right.
don't need like to be like, okay, this is what a pattern is. Like, you know what a pattern is. So I don't have to explain that. Yeah. So in the auto industry, I was a pattern maker for car seats. So
Oh
yes,
my
it was the
goodness.
coolest job. It was really cool. So I worked on a bunch of different programs and things. And I made the pattern. I took, the sketch that they would give us and then the foam and the frame and design the patterns on this online computer system, which is how I now also do my dress patterns.
Right,
So I'm very
right.
thankful I learned that. But yeah, that's what I did.
What was the most difficult difficult car make to work with?
Oh, I mean, it's all difficult. Leather, you're always getting wrinkles out. I mean, with wedding dresses too,
Yeah.
we're always getting the wrinkles out. So yeah, I don't know. Well, I will say this, the margin of error was extremely low. So I had to get it's on the computer. So it's very, very accurate and precise. And I had to get my patterns accurate within 1/10 of a millimeter.
Oh,
So my patterns could not be off anymore
no
than a
creative
1/10 of a
freedom
millimeter.
there. Just, yeah, you can't just make it work.
Yeah. Well,
That is
I'm
very stressful.
Yeah, it's more so like when you walk your patterns, like where the lines exactly fall was more up for discussion, but the accuracy of like that they sew together needed to be within 1/10 of a millimeter. But yeah,
Wow, that is fascinating.
yeah,
Okay, that's a whole nother podcast episode of
yeah.
like, if you'd like to switch careers and work in the car industry, this could be, for
Well,
you.
that's what happens when you graduate with a fashion degree and want to stay in the state of Michigan, especially Metro Detroit. You're gonna end up there. So, and I loved it. It was really cool. It was really cool. I
That is
just
so
love
funny.
wedding dresses more, and I can't do it all,
Yeah.
for the rest of my life.
Oh
So I
yeah.
had to make
But
a decision.
my husband and I were just talking about this because on my car, I don't even know, like the side about like right below the door handle, the leather is like coming up. And I'm like, and Duran was like, can we try to fix that? I'm like, I wouldn't even know. I don't
Is it on
know.
the
Like,
seat?
no, it's on the,
Mm, hmm.
yeah, it's
I
on
don't
the
know
door.
as much about that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if it was a seat problem, yeah, now I know where to go.
Yes. Yeah. If you have a seat problem, message me.
Oh,
I'll
that
give
is
you
so
my
funny.
feedback.
Well, I'm really excited to
Okay.
tackle the topic of seamless business moves because you do this so well. And when I was thinking about, whenever we want to introduce a change in the business or introduce maybe a new offering to our clients, sometimes it can either come across as like really willy-nilly, like, oh, I came up with this idea last night and now I'm going to offer it. And sometimes when that happens, your clients don't even have an opportunity to like soak it in and appreciate what it is and wait for you to drop the news. But then when I think about you and like most recently, you introduced redesigns, like
Yep.
vintage redesigns. And it was like this build up. And in the back of my mind, I was thinking, I'm pretty sure she's done this before. This is
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
smart because
Yeah.
I know that you're so good
Nothing
at this,
new.
but to your audience, you were like, guess what? I have something really cool that's coming down the pike. And it's something that you already totally excel in. So how do you go about, and that's just one example, but there have been other things that
Yeah.
you dropped along the way. So can you share like when you're getting ready to start something new or introduce something new, what's happening in the background to prep for that?
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, thank you for those incredible compliments and also noticing that I've done these things. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
organization is noted. Yeah.
thank you. It's so funny that you say this too, because you say I look so polished and willy-nilly, but like I am not. I am not. And if my husband heard you say that, he'd be like, okay, you clearly don't know Sarah
Yeah.
because
You can like save this recording and then just push playback, if ever he
yeah.
needs that reminder. It's all about how we present ourselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nobody needs to know what happens
Yes.
in the
I mean,
kitchen
at the
in
end of every
conversation.
day, I like practically have a therapy session with my husband. I'm like, okay, so this happened today. And like, these are my new business. Okay. I'm always messaging him. I'm like, I have a new business idea. He's like, oh, geez, here we go. Let's hear it.
That is so cute. Let's hear
Um,
it for, the spouses.
yes.
You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
for sure.
Yeah.
which by the way, I have a lot of trust in my husband, but I think in general, keeping your circle small as a business owner is key. Because if you get too many people's opinions, they, want to protect you and keep you safe and like,
Oh
don't take
yeah.
any risks. So you have to be careful, like who you talk to about these things. But the vintage redesigns, for example, I kept getting a lot of questions about it coming through emails. Like, is this something you would do? What's the timeline for that? Like, I'm really nervous about it. It doesn't fit, like all these questions. So it was more just like supply and demand. So I'm like, okay, well, let's go ahead and like make this a thing and provide a lot more information on the website about it. Honestly, so I'm answering less emails about it. And then it was just, pure content. So I don't know if that answered your question, but just kind of hyping everything up. Brides love excitement. We're always excited about everything. So just hype it up and get excited, and they'll get excited too. And I did get more business from it too by posting about it, because then it put the idea in people's heads that otherwise would have never done that.
Right.
Seeing like, oh wait, that actually turned out really pretty. Like, oh, maybe my mom's dress, like I thought it was hideous, but now like maybe I could do something to it, and they'll wear it for their bridal shower, rehearsal dinner, whatever.
So when you're thinking of like a launch, like a new offering, so you kind of come up with the idea, you bounced off your husband, he listens very nicely. And
Yes.
then do you kind of talk about it with your clients before you present it to see if it's something that they'd be excited about, or like kind of walk us through
No,
getting out
that's
of
a
your
good point,
brain
because
and then
I,
building the launch?
yeah, well, let's see. Sometimes when I'm like doing something like that, it's so spur of the moment. Like there's something I could think of, and then the next day I like spend an hour on Canva and like launch it the next day. So I don't put a huge amount of thought into it. And also I'm always thinking like, if people don't like this, is that a problem? It's not really a problem. Like just throw it out there, see what people think, see if it sticks. It's not hurting you. I don't think. I think there'd be very few things you could do that would really hurt your business. I think kind of more is more. And like, for example, the Target bed sheet, if you look at my Instagram, there's a reel that like really blew up about the Target bed sheet dress. And when I made that reel, I made it so quickly, and I'm getting sick of making reels, and I'm like, this isn't perfect, but let me just like, I'm just throwing it out there. I'm sure like social media managers would hate me for saying that, because I don't put a huge amount of planning into my social media, but you never know what works, and it's you got to just try it. And if you post it and people aren't very receptive to it, you just don't post about it again, and everyone will completely forget about it. Or it might surprise you, and people are asking questions in the comments and things like that. And then it'll help think of the next idea and the next way to promote it.
Yeah. And I think too, a lot of seamstresses, we offer more than just sewing. So some of us do like cleaning and preservation, or like day of dressing services, or custom veils. And it's like your clients don't know. Sometimes we just think that our clients are like reading every word on our website, which sometimes I'm like, I wish you would read my website. Actually, that would save me some reply time, but that isn't common. So it's like educating them through like having several posts just about your veils, or like, do you know what wedding day service even is? And kind of getting outside of the box of like what we know is so routine for us. And then thinking of these brides who like, it's the first time experience, they don't know what to expect. And they're just, like you said, they're so excited to soak everything in and all the knowledge. So kind of retraining ourselves to present everything that we offer as this really cool thing that maybe you didn't know this is a possibility, but I do this for you. Or like, if again, it's just all about presentation. So I love that. You're making it sound really easy. So far, so good.
Well, yeah, just try it. Just try it. If you don't have Canva, get Canva. So like, for example, a lot of my brides don't even know what steaming is, which we would think is like so obvious, like, but of course, we never want to make fun of them or anything, but like, they don't know what that is. But if I post about it on my Instagram. Do you ever hear
steam cleaning? Like, when is my dress, should I get my dress steam cleaned before the wedding? And I'm like,
oh yeah, I steam
I'm not going to steam clean it. I'm just going to steam it. Like,
yeah, it's one or the other. Yes. So just examples like that. Or people don't know what hemming is either. And of course, I'm sensitive to that. I mean, if you don't sew, you don't know this lingo. But I think,
Right.
myself included, I think we start to forget that the language of being a bridal seamstress is not what everybody knows. And it's been super helpful because every time I post about bustles, like, you know, the next week, all my brides are like, "Oh, I saw that bustle on your Instagram. I saw that bustle." So it's less time for me explaining the bustle types, or they come in and they say, "I know I want a French bustle." And I'm like, perfect. I don't even have to like run through them with you. You already saw it. You already know. Let's keep it moving. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah. Okay, switching gears a little bit. You recently were an educator at, well, in my neck of the woods at a sewing conference.
Yeah, I was.
How do you even get involved in something like that?
I applied. I'd been to the sewing expo before and I wanted to go back. So I'm just like, well, if I'm going to go back, like maybe I could just maybe cover some of my travel expenses by teaching. And it was so much fun. It was so much fun. The sewing community is just the best, the nicest people, and I just my kind of people. So it was fun just teaching a little bit about sewing for business, sewing for work, and like couture techniques and things like that. So we'll see if I'm sure I'll be back at some point. I don't know for sure yet if I'm going for 2024 yet or not, but it was really, really fun.
Oh
It's
yeah,
great.
congratulations. And it's
Thank
neat to
you.
think that like those opportunities are out there. You know, I mean, you do
You
need to
have
be
to seek them out
proactive,
too.
right? You need to be
Yeah.
proactive, but like those opportunities are out there, and sometimes we forget there's a whole sewing community that doesn't have to do with bridal sewing. It's
Yes.
not all about us.
And there's
And
also a
so,
whole fashion industry that has nothing to do with bridal. So it's like
yeah,
we're
like who knew?
so incredibly niche. It's crazy. Yeah.
So sometimes
Yeah.
branching out and making those connections with other sewists that aren't necessarily bridal seamstresses, I'm sure you learned so much yourself too when you're at the expo.
Oh my gosh, so much. Yeah. I've taken classes there before and things. I never want to stop learning about sewing. I don't ever want to be like, okay, I'm done. I'm an expert. I know everything. I want to
Yeah,
just always keep learning and seeing what other people are doing because we all sew in our own, like I'm in my own little space. No other sewers go in my sewing space. I don't go into other sewers' sewing
right.
spaces. So I would love, what are you doing over there? I don't know.
Yeah. And
Let's
I think
talk
that's
about
wise
it.
too, as like we're seeing like dress trends change so much, like the fabrics that are coming out, or like I'm so ready for this jersey lining trend to leave. But anyway, that's another soapbox. But
Don't get me
like
started.
our techniques need to move with the times too, and to, keep ourselves current. So okay, well
Oh,
now I'm really
100%.
excited if you're coming back that weekend, at least around here, our sewing expo always falls on our anniversary weekend. It's
Oh
like,
yeah.
can it actually be the second weekend in March? Thank you, because
Yeah.
that would really help us
He
out.
he
But
doesn't want to go with you to the sewing
I
expo,
know.
your
And like, I am
anniversary
so
date?
nice. I have never gone in 12 years. So it's like, okay, maybe
Oh,
I,
yeah. It is really cool. It's really big.
yes.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
But I'm
And
so glad that there's people like you, Nadine, that are bringing the sewing community together too, specifically with bridal sewing. Before I went to your retreat last year, I didn't know any other bridal.
wow.
I I really didn't. And I'm
Yeah.
so glad that I met all of you. And it's like just the best community ever. And I'm so thankful that you are pulling us all together. I love
Well, my
it.
pleasure. And it's like we have the sewing and then we have that specific clientele. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So it's like we get each other's
Yeah.
language. So it's
Oh my
like,
gosh.
okay.
Yes. Yep.
So what is next on the docket with your business endeavors? Do you have any patterns or something else that might be coming down the
Hmm.
line under Sarah Kolis name? Because what's the next announcement going to be?
I
You have
don't
like
know.
the podcast, you have
Yes.
the
Yep. So
educating.
I'm working on the podcast. My podcast is called Dressing Up with Sarah Kolis. And Nadine, that's actually how I found you. Because when I was making my podcast, I was searching what other podcast titles were already being used. And I saw yours.
Oh,
And I'm
yes.
like, I should start listening to this. And then here we
Oh,
are. We're friends
that is
now.
so funny. So when I
Yeah.
first started it too, it was for like season one was like for brides or like for
Yeah, I
people
know,
who
noticed
wear
that. Yeah.
formals. And then as I was like just kind of connecting more with seamstresses, I was like, I think I want the content to switch. And so when I remember seeing yours pop up and I'm like, perfect, because there is a need, like there are listeners for that topic.
Mm-hmm.
So you cover not just for brides, you cover kind of
Yeah,
the
I'm trying to
artistry of
go a little
dressing up,
further. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
which is
Oh, I
super
like
fun.
that. The artistry.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And I remember even at the retreat, you said something because I bought that vintage suit with you.
Oh, I
And then you're
loved it.
like,
Loved it.
you said something like that's part of the fun of clothes is you get to have a different style every day. And I had never thought of that because I'm like, you need to stick within your like personal style, like your personal.
Stay in your lane. No, get out of your
Yes.
lane.
And I'm like, I can do something different every day. Like I can wear
Yeah,
like my Vans sweatshirt one day and then I can wear like my collared cute shirt and then my little,
whatever you want.
yeah. So anyway,
Yeah.
so thank you for
Yeah.
that. Thank you for that
I'm trying to
inspo.
inspire that in more people with the podcast. So I'm glad that
Yes.
you were touched by that a little bit.
Yeah.
So
Thank
yay.
you. Yeah. So what's next?
So you mentioned the pattern thing, and it's so funny because when you emailed me, you really got me thinking. And I've been asked about that before.
It was like a
And
subtle
but
hint, like
yeah,
patterns, anyone?
I
I'd be
know.
the
And then
first
I
one to
was
buy one.
literally about to email you back, and I'm like, wait, Nadine, we're like, don't mention the pattern thing. Like, we're not doing that. That's not something I do. But then I'm like, wait, but maybe I could. So we'll see. I'm really hoping in the next couple of weeks, maybe I'll have time to sit down and really work on it. But I am considering selling patterns for
Mhm.
gowns and dresses. So
Yeah, absolutely. Because you have that amazing program that you use to
yeah,
create these
so
patterns,
cool.
which you're very honest in saying it's very difficult to learn because hello, this comes
Yes,
from your like car
yes,
experience. So
yes. It
like
was
I don't
yes.
really have those skills. Mostly I don't have that patience to learn a project that intense. But if you came up with patterns, I would be buying them. Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds good. First
I could
customer.
think of like at least like 4 people that definitely would line up and purchase a pattern. So you have 5 customers so far.
Oh, perfect. Well, good. Well, I am considering it. It's still in the very beginning stages, but what I'm considering is that I'll have a master pattern, and you would purchase it, but then you would give me your bust, waist, and hip measurements, and then I can alter the pattern to, fit your body shape as close as I can. Of course, you'll still need
Yeah,
tweaks on your end, and then send it to you that way. So I'm considering that different route than the normal
I
pattern
love
download.
that. It's like truly a custom sewing experience. You get your own
Yeah.
custom pattern. You're picking out your own fabric. You're making it for yourself, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, well, keep us posted. And
Will
if
do.
you're like listening, if you're watching on YouTube, drop a comment. If you're like, yes, I would purchase this pattern because maybe we can just build up Sarah's confidence here to get that launch going. The
Please,
next
thank
launch.
you. Yeah.
Okay,
Oh
let's go
man.
back. I want to talk a little bit more about your podcast because that was another
Mm.
thing that like when we're talking about your seamless business moves, that was one of them where it's like, oh, this like anticipated launch came out of nowhere, but it was like so well thought through. At least that's what it looked like, and
Thank
then
you.
yeah, it seems really like well planned. So your audience is for brides and then people who just love to dress up. But how
Mhm.
has that been going? How's it been growing? And then where do you want to see the podcast like a year from now?
Yeah, it's all still very experimental. I'm still trying to figure out what my listeners are enjoying,
Yeah.
but I'm always very late to the technology game. Like I'm always at least 3 years behind. Like I just am. So I started listening to podcasts about a year ago, and I was like, oh, this is what a podcast is. I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, wait, this is kind of cool. I'm kind of enjoying this. And then the thought crossed my mind that I could have my own podcast. I'm like, whoa, back up, Sarah. You are not cool enough to have your own podcast. And then I just thought about it more and more. And I'm like, you know what? Why not? Like, let's just
Yeah.
try it. What's the worst that could happen? So I really wanted, so I have a lot of brides, following my business and all, but I also wanted to cater to the people that are just really awesome people that are in my life that follow kind of what I'm doing and
Mhm.
aren't getting married
Mhm.
or brides that have already gotten married. And I have a big passion for instilling confidence in women just in general. And I have a spin on it with the clothes and everything and having well-fitting clothes and also just having more fun with what you're wearing and how you're dressing up. And of course, I'm sure you've noticed, I'm sure everybody's noticed the trend, I almost want to say downward in dressing up. So
Right.
now we wear leggings and stretchy shirts all day, every day. Athleisure is everywhere. And there's not much of an act of dressing up as much as there used to be. And I
Yeah.
personally love dressing up. I
Yeah.
love feeling like I'm dressed well and I present myself better and I feel more confident and I'm happier. And sure, I
Mhm.
might not be as physically comfortable as I would in leggings, but I just enjoy every other aspect of it. So I kind of
Yeah.
wanted to bring that to the world a little bit.
Yeah, I love that. Even when I go to work and I know I'm just gonna be like sewing, that's when I, bust out the scrubs and I'm just looking a little, not literal scrubs, but I feel
Same.
like a scrub.
Yes,
Yeah.
same.
But, like when I feel like I'm put together and I own this place. You know what I mean? It just is, it completely sets the tone. Like, and I think it sets the tone for your clients too. I don't know. Like, and I don't want to
Yes. You're
throw
so
shade
true.
on anybody who is, comfortable, likes to wear comfy clothes at fittings. That's totally
Mhm.
fine. Cause I can
Mhm.
also see the opposite where it's like, well, I'm going to be like, crawling around,
Oh,
putting
yeah.
pins and stuff and hemming and I want to
Yeah.
wear something comfy and I get that too. But I definitely feel more like, I guess, in control of the situation, maybe
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
I'm more dressed up. And I
More
remember,
professional.
yeah,
Mhm.
this was probably like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. And I had a bride. Well, yeah, I had a bride come in and she had messaged me and she's like, I follow you on Instagram. I'm so excited to come in. So I knew she was pumped for the fitting. And I had on like one of my favorite t-shirts. And you know how those are. They're not
Mhm.
flattering. They're just like super comfy and like pair of
Yeah.
jeans and probably like Toms at the time. Cause I think Toms were still kind of okay to wear back then. And I
Uh-huh.
remember feeling like, oh my gosh, she came in dressed up, pumped, and I looked like that. And I felt like, oh, get it together, Nadine. Like she's excited for this and you just like showed up, you know? So like the next day I went to Loft and I got, actual cute like work clothes. And then that's just been
Mhm.
like part of like the business expense is like, I'm going to look nice and put together because I want to show up for something that they're so excited for and not look like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm at work. It's like, I'm here for your
Yeah.
amazing experience that you're so excited for, whatever,
Yeah. I
just
think
makes
there's
such
a
a
sense of
difference.
added respect when you dress up too. I mean, the girl's in a wedding dress. How much more formal can you get? And I want to make sure I'm closer to her level. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I mean, in case anybody knocks on my door, there will be days where it's like, oh, yeah, I'm having a day. And
Yeah.
this is kind of how I showed up. But usually that's part of the conversation too with the client. Like, oh, here's what's happened to me this morning. So
Yeah.
you're getting the comfy version of me, and it's kind of
Yeah.
like,
Or my comfy
table.
shoes. Like when I have
Yeah.
clients appointments, I'm
Hmm.
like, okay, this is a day for comfy shoes. It's gonna be a long day. I'm like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't go to the extremes today. So I wear
Oh,
these
yes,
ugly
yes, yes.
shoes, but
Yeah.
it is what it
I'm
is.
just wearing kitten heels today, ladies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. My 4-inch stilettos are still in the closet today. Not
Oh,
pulling
that's so
those
funny.
out.
Yeah. So give us your final, maybe projection of 3 years into the future of Sarah Kolis Designs.
Mm.
I don't know what's left to do because
Oh, it's
I've
just
done a
all
lot.
done. No.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
Let's
pattern.
growing the
Okay.
podcast.
Yes, growing
Let's
the
get some
pod.
celebrity stylists on the podcast. That'd be so fun.
Okay, let's do that. Let's
Mhm.
just get celebrities on the podcast. Just skip right over. I do want a larger studio space and then just working more on custom gowns too.
Mhm.
So alterations for sure, but I also do some custom gowns. So I'd like to just do more of those because those make me so happy and they're just so much fun. I get to use silk fabrics and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. And how often, like right now, about how many customs are you taking a year? Comfortably.
About I don't want to do more than 5.
Wow,
So
that's significant though.
yeah. See, yeah. When I tell other people that don't sew,
Like,
they're like, "Oh, you don't do that many." And I'm like, "Oh, 5 is a
you're like,
lot."
that's like 2 months a dress. Like,
Yeah,
come on.
yeah. It's a lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So kind of slowly building that up. That's very
Mhm.
exciting. And you're in a
Yeah.
really cool place to follow. So we're really excited for you.
Yeah.
You have a little
Thank you.
group of cheerleaders and keep us
Yeah.
posted. And thanks for being an example of just how to even maybe hype up. Maybe that's kind of what we're getting from this episode is like
Maybe. Yeah.
having the confidence to hype up your decisions instead of
Yes.
feeling like, well, it's on my website.
Yes.
Well, I
Yes.
like when
And
I guess we'll talk about it in fittings, or it's like if you have an offering and you think it's something that everybody knows, assume that they don't and
mhm.
can never over educate
Yeah.
or
And
over introduce.
right. And I think something we didn't talk about in this episode that I know everybody feels is just getting discouragement every now and then from particular brides. I get that too. So I've created a mindset where I'm going to push through those negative feelings, but I do get those negative feelings too. So just try to
Oh yeah.
hop over those and just keep going.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is yeah, we should have talked more about this because that is a thing where it's like, okay, here's the highlight reel and then
Yeah. Yeah.
you
All the
know,
good stuff is
yeah, yeah,
posted.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's kind of like you can almost like do all the right things too, but then you can't help it. Like you're working with human beings who are
You are.
stressed.
Yeah.
So something's going to
Yeah.
come up. And like you said, kind of developing that mindset where it's like, okay, this is what it is. Here's how I can walk away from it and still feel good about what I
Yeah.
do and not lose it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Well, what's next for Nadine? What's next in the next couple years? Let's answer your own question here.
Ooh. I don't, oh yeah, now I'm like, I feel like I'm refreshing. I don't know. I feel like this past year has been so good. I like for maybe 3 or 4 years, you know, you hear like, okay, you got the hustle, like you have to get to the hustle phase. And I feel like that's what the past few years were for me. It was like just constantly thinking of the next thing and going, going, going. And probably, I think it was like May that I remember thinking like, oh, I'm okay. Like this is I can kind of like sit back and not like sit back and be done, but like I don't need to constantly be chasing the next thing
You
to
were hitting some of your goals.
yes. And it's like,
It's
okay, now I
amazing.
can like rest in them and feel good about it instead of like just quickly moving on to the next thing, which I've kind of been like that since I was a little kid, like just ding, ding, ding,
Yeah.
ding, ding, like next thing, next thing. So probably just enjoying this season. And yeah, maybe that's the first step, I think. Yeah. And maybe getting a little more into the education space, taking some bigger steps there, but I don't know
Mhm.
enough yet, so I don't want to say too much, but yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be fun.
Yeah. You're
Because I
definitely
have
working
space
towards
for
that.
it. I'm
You
not
do. Yeah.
like my brain space isn't going to all like the little decisions. It's like they've been made, we're in a groove.
Hmm.
This is all working out, you know, and it's like,
Hmm.
okay, now I can kind of think about bigger ideas. So it's really exciting.
Yeah.
And then also encouragement to like, if you're in that season where you're like, oh my goodness, I'm literally living like moment to moment. It's not like that forever, especially if your business is just getting off the ground, you know, like it, it does take that extra energy to get it off the ground, but then it does get off the ground and then you're not like pushing it up
Yeah.
anymore. It just starts
Yeah.
floating on its own. So there is a point where it does.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. You get in the
Yeah.
groove. You get in the
Yes.
groove.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
so there is hope if you're kind of stuck there. It's like, yeah. So
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
thanks for
Learning to be
asking.
a bridal seamstress. I mean, it takes years to get
Mhm.
to any sort of level where you feel
Yeah.
a little bit of confidence.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think too,
Mhm.
like that was kind of that was okay. And then like Secrets of Bridal Seamstress was growing in a different way.
Mhm.
And so it was like, so now it's like, okay, this is good. So
Yep.
yeah,
You got things
thanks for asking.
established a little bit.
Exactly. Yes, yes, yes.
Yay.
Okay, well, where do we learn more about you? Dressing Up Podcast is on most streaming platforms, correct?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
And my website, sarahkolis.com, sarahkolis.com. And my Instagram is Sarah Kolis Designs.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you, Sarah, so much. I can't
Yay.
wait for our little community
Thank
to hear
you.
this. They're going to be so excited to learn more
Yay.
about you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you like what you heard, please subscribe and share this podcast with a friend. And if you're feeling really generous, leave a review. Thanks, everyone.